Hi, welcome to KiwaniTalk. We're a public information show put together by people from the Dearborn Kiwanis Club and throughout the school year at our facilities at WDHS at Dearborn High School. But as we film this, we're in the middle of summer vacation, so we're doing it at an undisclosed remote location, actually at my office on Ford Road in Dearborn. My name is Gary Gardner. Welcome to the longest running cable access program in the world. And right now it's the middle of summer and something just happened in Dearborn and across the state of Michigan as we're taping this a couple of days ago, but it was Election Day.
It was.
And to help us talk about Election Day in general and specifically in Dearborn, we have the Honorable George T. Darany, the city clerk from the city of Dearborn. George, welcome to the program.
I appreciate the opportunity to come back.
It's good to have you back because I always learn a lot about elections, having run for office a number of times, always a bridesmaid, never a bride in the end, but yes. It's all good. Okay. And but it's a very important part of our process. But
it is.
But you weren't always the city clerk of Dearborn. Where did George Darany come from?
Well, I mean, I've grown up here my whole life. I went to Edsel Ford High School and then U of M Dearborn, got a degree in economics from there. And then I started my own company way back when in 1986 with the Dearborn Trolley Company that turned into Classic Trolley Company and had that about 21 years until somebody said, "Hey, George, you should run for office." So
are they still your friend after they made you
No,
run?
they are not my friends anymore. But so I ran for council and I lost. And so I said, okay, I gave it a shot. I think, oh, no, you got to try a second time. So I tried the second time and I lost. But what happened the third time?
It was a charm.
I lost again.
Oh, okay.
So I lost 3 times. But unfortunately, we had an instance in Dearborn where unfortunately our mayor passed away and somebody from the council moved out of the council into the mayor's seat. And that allowed me, because I was the next in line, to move up to the council seat, and then I won my own council seat after that. So I served on the council for 4 years, and then someone had another idea, hey George, you should run for state rep, and I did, and I won 3 two-year terms as state rep, and then I was at that time term limited. Now you can serve for 12 years, but when I was there you could only serve for 6 years. So I ran after that for city clerk, and I've been the clerk for the last 8.5.
And elections are a little different today than when we started running. My first race was 1988.
Okay.
And it was all pretty much all in-person voting at the precincts.
Yes.
And if you wanted to vote, or if you had to vote absentee, you had to have a reason. And what kind of reason did you have to have?
Well, you had to be over 60 for one. You had to be in jail and couldn't get to the poll.
I missed on 2 of those so far.
Or in the hospital and couldn't leave the hospital to vote. So there were just some very few reasons. Some people said that you couldn't also vote for religious beliefs. And I'm going, well, I couldn't think of one religion that said that you couldn't go to the polls to vote, but they said no, there were some. So those
wasn't on a Friday or Saturday voting. So
yes, right.
Yeah.
So so those were the only reasons until the voters voted. I believe it was 2018, maybe 20, that for no reason absentee voting. So that opened it up for anybody to.
So 2020. So you've been the city clerk starting what year?
I started in January of 18.
Okay, so you had the experience of having the you needed an excuse. You needed a legitimate excuse to vote.
Yeah.
And so talk about that process when that came down. What was the expectation and what was the reality of the absentee no excuse?
Well, the thought behind it was I think they thought more people would vote. That you're opening it up and giving people a more of a choice of when they could vote, and that would in turn turn to more people voting percentage-wise. We didn't really see that citywide. I don't think we saw it countywide. It just made it so people had a different choice of when they voted. Instead of coming on election day, they just decided, no, I'm going to get a mail-in ballot and do it that way to save myself the time and the energy of coming out on election day.
good thing about that is you get people up, but not many more voted.
No.
It seems like the people who are incentivized to vote are going to vote no matter what.
Yes.
And the people who aren't going to vote, well, they're not.
Yeah, they're just not.
But
yeah.
there's in the Michigan primary for the U.S. Senate this couple days ago,
Yeah.
there were 3 candidates on the ballot.
Yeah.
One of them dropped out, and
Yes.
And the race was close. Was within like within 1% ultimately.
Yeah, 1.5%.
But
Yeah,
the person
but people still voted for that third person.
Or there may have been mail-in ballots that are absentee ballots
Yes.
that were sent in ahead of time.
Yes.
And that 4%
Made the difference.
made a difference. And so,
Made a
you
big
know,
difference.
so-
Now, a lot of those people, well, I don't know what you consider a lot, but we had a number of people that came to the counter once she dropped out in order to spoil their ballot and get another one. But most people didn't. They just let it go, whether they had voted for her or not. They didn't care. They just said, okay, I'm just going to let my vote go.
So for someone who wanted the convenience of being able to vote without just getting it delivered to your house,
Yeah.
filling it out, sending it back in, all of a sudden there is a much different level of inconvenience.
Yes, exactly.
And
Exactly.
so that would, so there's maybe something to be said if you wanted to have truly informed voters.
Yeah.
Because things change up until the day of the election.
Absolutely, because we had how many people drop out of the governor's race?
Right. Yeah. There's all of a sudden there was a bunch. Then it was now Eric Nesbitt was one of them who dropped out early.
Nesbitt was the first one, and then Mike Cox dropped out
at the last minute, but Cox was still on the ballot.
Well, they both were on the ballot.
Okay, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, they both were on the ballot. So if see, there's a filing deadline, and 4 days later there's a withdrawal deadline from Tuesday to Friday. So if you don't drop out by that Friday, there's no turning back. State law says you will be on the ballot. Whether you're dropped out or not, your name will still appear on the ballot.
Do you know, and if you don't, it's okay because that's kind of an arcane question, but let's say the person who dropped out got more votes than the other contenders. What would happen then?
Then they would still win, and then it would be up to them if they want to be sworn into that position or not.
Right.
Yeah. But normally when you drop out, people know that, and you'll get some votes, but it's usually not enough to be the majority.
Right. So with the voting in Dearborn is a pretty good turnout normally for across the state. Talk about that.
Yeah, we're pretty happy with the turnout Dearborn's had. And it's not because I'm the clerk, though I'd like to take credit for it, but long before I was the clerk, Dearborn had a reputation of having a city that people like to vote and consistently do vote at a higher percentage than most of the other cities in the state. We're typically, on a city election, we're typically between 25 and 30%, where a lot of cities are below 20%.
So of the population of Dearborn, what's the population?
Oh, 109, 110.
109, 110,000.
Yeah.
How many registered voters and how many voters are there? And there's a difference, and we can explain that.
There is a difference. So we have about 78,000 people on our books as registered voters, but as far as verified voters go, that number drops to about 75,000.
So 78,000 out of 110, that's about 75%.
Yeah.
So is 75% of the population of Dearborn over 18 eligible to vote? I don't. That's a different question.
There are more people that are eligible to vote. Yeah.
Okay, so then
yeah, we've got our population is of eligible voters is probably closer to 85. I mean, if you want 100%
right.
of everybody, you probably can get to about 85 to 90,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but again, when we talked before the show, it's a good thing you didn't have 104% voter turnout.
Yes.
But we're not going to go there.
Yes,
because
we don't
it's
have
a topic
more.
for a whole different show.
Yes, okay.
But for the turnout in Dearborn at 30%,
yeah,
you know, it's and to say that that's a good turnout, it's really abysmal from a citizen's point of view.
Well, that's true. That's true. You know, you would think it would be higher than that but in other countries it is. It's just in the United States it's not. I've talked to, when I was a state representative, I talked to some state reps in Florida, and they said we're happy to get 5 to 10%. I'm going, are you kidding me? But yeah, it's just that number, and it's unfortunate because these are the people that are, the 5 or 10% are deciding who's going to be in control of your city or your city council, your mayor, for the other 90% of the people that are not voting.
And talk about how important it is to vote in the primary, because you as a primary voter at 30%.
Yeah.
The general election turnout, is it higher?
Yes.
How much higher is it?
It won't be that much higher because we do such a great job in the primary, and those same people come out to vote in November. Typically, you get a bigger number in November because, okay, that's the big one. That's where you get to decide between Democrat and Republican, between yes or no on a ballot question. In the primary, you're just whittling it down to those one Democrat and one Republican.
So if there's a 30% turnout in the primary, what would the percentage be in the general?
Well, probably about 35%.
Okay, so for 5%, that's of the people who vote. That's about 30% of the people who vote.
Yeah.
20% of the people who vote didn't have any say of who they're voting for in the end.
Yeah, it could be higher depending. This year it may be higher because in Michigan we're deciding a brand new governor, a brand new Secretary of State, and a brand new Attorney General. So that typically, in those kind of years, that could push us up to like 40 or 42%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back to this changeover from the had to be in person with or a good excuse to the no excuse voting, what mechanically did you have to do in the clerk's office to accommodate that?
Well, we just had to be prepared for a lot more absentee ballots to come in. And when the first changeover hit for the 2020 election, that was, of course, COVID didn't help that either because a lot of people didn't want to go out to actually vote in the 2020 election.
Right.
So that pushed the number even higher. But in Dearborn, if we're typically around 4,000 or 5,000 people that voted absentee, in November of 2020, we had 25,000 people vote absentee.
Okay.
So for an office prepared to do 5,000, and now we had to take in 25,000, it put in for a lot of long hours for a lot of people.
And so the process of counting when you go to vote in Dearborn at the precinct, you get show your ID and you get your ballot and you mark it. I want to talk about marking, by the way, because the pen I got bled right through both sides of the paper when I was there. But you put it in the machine and it's counted. Okay.
Yeah.
How is it different procedurally for an absentee ballot when they come in, and when do you start counting those things?
So just a year or so ago, the state allowed us to start counting the early votes early if we want to, if we want to, and every city has a choice on that. So we decided that we were going to count them 2 different times. So we started counting the absentees the Tuesday before the election, and also we counted more on the Saturday before the election, and then whatever was remaining we did, and whatever came in on election day, we did on election day. So we counted 3 times.
3 times.
And so we open up the envelopes, we take out the ballots, and it's different people at different stations. So the same person that opens it up is not the same person that takes it out. So we might see your name, the first person might see your name, but the second person doesn't see that envelope. They just see a second envelope and they take it out, and then the third person puts it into a pile, and then the next person puts it in a pile of 50, and then they take it to the tabulator, and then we run those 50. We run them at 50 at a time into a special tabulator.
Okay, so when I go to the vote in person, I have to show an ID to verify my ID.
Yes.
But absentee ballot, there's no photo ID on the outside of it. How does the clerk's office verify that a ballot that comes in is from a registered and certified voter? So
what we do is we have to look at the signature. We do a signature verification. And when I was talking earlier about 25,000, that's what took time, is to going through all of those 25,000 one by one. We look at it. We have a screen that shows us what your driver's license signature looks like, and we compare it. If it looks like a match, it moves on. If it doesn't, we put them in a pile, and then we have to notify those people saying there was an issue with your signature. You have to come in and verify your signature with a driver's license.
And once that signature is verified, then you can go through, and it'll go through and get unfolded and
Yes.
put into the, taken
Yeah,
out.
we don't open up the envelope until we know that signature is verified.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue this discussion because I have a couple of questions about the verification.
Okay.
With the Honorable George T. Darany, Honorable Clerk of the City of Dearborn.
Thank you.
Talking about elections and what the process is and how, we'll get into how important it is to actually get out there and vote. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
There must be a lot of love out there in the world, at least if you think of all the things people say they love. But it's funny. Sometimes the things we love the most are the ones we don't talk about often enough. I mean, the things that bring true change to a child's life, to a community, to the people who come together and make change happen. Think about what you love about your club. Think about the children it reaches. Think about the pride it gives you. And think about this. Thousands of Kiwanians around the world love being members of their clubs too. So think about what could happen if we all shared our Kiwanis stories. After all, there's a million things to love in the world, but there's nothing like a love that makes the world better. So show it, share it, let the world know.
Welcome back to KiwaniTalk. I'm your host, Gary Gardner, where we're talking all things elections in Dearborn with the man who knows the most about all things elections in Dearborn, the Honorable George T. Darany,
Thank you very
Esquire, City Clerk, City of Dearborn.
Thank you.
All the good stuff. So we were talking about the verification process beforehand and the clerk's office then does a job that they're supposed to do in Dearborn by verifying that the absentee ballots come in, and so you get signatures, and if you look at a signature it doesn't look good, what do you do to make sure it's not a good signature, and how do you notify the voters? So
they put us through a little bit of training. So there was I'm going to say a 20-30 minute video on signature identification. And everybody that works in my office had to go through that training and to make sure that they know the basics of understanding what a good signature is and what a bad signature is. And I don't want to get too political, but there were some that were saying that you had to assume that the signature was good before you can make it a bad signature, but that was wrong direction, and that got changed by a court and a judge that said, no, you don't assume anything. It's just a signature. You can't assume that it's good or bad. It's just a signature, and then you verify it with the driver's license signature. And so we've been trained on what to look for, and if somebody agrees that it is, it usually goes through a process of 2 to 3 different people to look at it. And then a consensus is taken whether it's a good signature or not.
So lesson there is, if you're going to vote absentee, get your ballot back early.
Yes.
In case there's a problem with the signature or something else.
Correct. Yeah, there's like 45 days before the election that you actually have before election day to get your absentee ballot, and we mail them out right away. So again, there's at least 40 to 45 days that you'll have the ballot in hand. So we ask you to try to get that in as soon as possible. Obviously, you've got time, but if you wait to the last minute and then there is an issue with your signature, there may not be time to get it back to us.
So of all the 25,000 ballots that came in, for example, what percentage failed the eyeball verification test?
Well, back in November of 2020, I would say there had to have been at least 500.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 1/10 of well, about half, about a percent. About
Yeah.
half, about 2% actually.
2%. Yeah.
So from those, then you called the people, and how many ultimately got cured and fixed and were able to go through?
I'd say 400 of them, perhaps.
That's a good thing. So the people
Yeah.
then who cared enough to vote absentee cared enough to come in and fix the problem.
Yeah, and some of those, we went the extra step, and some of those people that were perhaps elderly and couldn't get out, we actually went to their homes, and they verified their signature with a state ID or with a driver's license in front of one of my deputies, and so I can't get out, I'm sick, or I broke my leg, or whatever it was. We took the extra effort. We emailed, we called many times, more than once. And then we actually did go person to person, house by house, to try to track them down.
You know, I'm always amazed that my signature ever passes any verification because it's not the most graceful signature in the world.
But if it matches your state ID or your driver's license, that's what we're looking for.
So, registration. Okay, when you go to the Secretary of State's office, they will register you to vote.
Yes.
Then that information is sent to the city of Dearborn.
Correct.
And then you're registered forever. But what happens if you don't always vote? What happens if you go a few cycles and you don't vote?
Yeah. So if you've gone, I believe it's now 6 years without voting, then your name could drop off of the active list. So you're still a registered voter, but you're not active. You go into the verified or certified status, and then if you want to vote again, then we need to see your driver's license showing that you are in fact still living in Dearborn.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how many people show up on election night at 7 o'clock or 7:30 and they've been out of town or been away or haven't voted, and then all of a sudden there's a problem? What happens then?
Yeah, then they have to come back to our office to get verified again, because you can't be verified at the polling location. You have to be verified at our office. And sometimes there's enough time to do that. But like you said, if they come at 7 or 7:15, there may not be enough time to get back to the city hall in order to. And what happens there is you get verified for the November election. You just can't vote in this election. You'll be verified to vote in the November election.
Right. And what information does a voter have to verify that they are eligible in Dearborn?
Yeah. So if their driver's license shows it matches what we have in our qualified voter file, then that's all that's needed. If it doesn't, if they say, well, I still live in Dearborn, but I moved to a different address in Dearborn, then we need, the state asks for 3 proofs of mail that you've received at your new address. But it can't be junk mail. It has to be a utility bill or mortgage payment or something of that sort that verifies that you are living at that location.
So we're coming down towards the end, but the voting part is the kind of the easy part.
Yes.
Now I get down to the counting part,
Yeah.
and the adding part. You know, how does the tabulators you mentioned? They'll spit out a number.
Yes.
How do you verify? How does it verify the number of ballots that come in there and how does that work?
So at the end of the night on election day, the tabulator will show us a number of what it is. But we also have our electronic poll book that has a number. And so those numbers have to match. The number of ballots that we've passed out, counting the ones that might have been spoiled in there, has to match what the tabulator says. And if it doesn't, then the election workers stay there to try to figure out what happens. If you're off, you're usually off by 1 or 2. We don't want to be off by any, right?
Right.
That's not what we want. So we always tell people, if there's something unusual, the election workers, if there's something unusual, put it in your poll book, handwrite it, or you can type it in, and then use that to help verify, to get that number to 0. So at the end, we want a 0 difference between the tabulator number and the number that's on the electronic poll book.
So then the electronic tabulators send over Wi-Fi the results down to the headquarters, or not?
No, we don't do that.
I know.
So the tabulators have a smart card in it, a memory card. So we take that memory card out at the end of the night, when the people come back, when the election workers come back with everything they come back with, they come back with the card, and then we run that through a computer that sends that information to Wayne County. And the same with the early voting. We have 2 tabulators for that. Those cards come out and are sent to Wayne County. And the same thing with AV. We have 2 tabulators for EV or absentee voting. Those cards come out, get entered into the laptop, and get sent to Wayne County. And we get audited. And at the audit, they can pick any precinct that they want. And the AV votes and the precinct votes, the amount of ballots that we have to match what we said that they were from the tabulator. So we can't add any ballots or take away any ballots. The number of ballots have to be exactly the same.
When they do that audit, do they say, okay, the results in the machine say there's 74% for candidate A and 26% for candidate B? Do you then go through and do a manual count and see if those 76 and 24 match?
They do the count of the ballots, but they don't do the counts of the necessary races.
So with some degree we're dependent upon the software and the machine being right. So that's
yeah.
You know.
And we do the software and the machines. They're programmed, zeroed out, and those machines are also audited at the end. So the machines also have to have the same numbers. So we take a test ballot. Let's say we run 40 ballots through every tabulator, and we run the tapes. And so the tape, when it comes out, we read the ballots and we make sure that the tape is saying exactly what we fed it in with the ballots.
Okay.
So that test is done before the election, and then they do at the audit, they do it with the tabulator, and they test the same way to make sure that the tape matches what we had pre-programmed those 40 ballots to be.
So in our last minute or two, you've gotten through the primary election.
Yes.
Now you're getting ready for the general in November. How important is it as a clerk, as a citizen, as an American, for people to get out there and to make sure their vote is cast and counted properly?
Yeah, well, it's paramount that you come out to vote. And there's lots of people that have concerns about voting and if it's done accurately. And we always invite those people to come to work for us. Because if you're working behind the scenes as an election worker on election day or at night in the receiving board and seeing everything come in and being computed, then I think you get a pretty good understanding of what we do, what we go through, and how accurate it really truly is. If you want to work the AV counting board, we're always looking for people to work. We have to hire 350 to 400 people every election. And that's not an easy task. So those that are watching, that have concerns about it, we ask you to come and join us and to see how it actually works.
Is there a phone number to the clerk's general number for the clerk's office?
Yeah, it's 313-943-2010. 313-943-2010. And we're going to have, normally we have flyers that are online with a QR code. You can just scan that QR code and get all kinds of information on it as well. But we invite you to join us.
Well, George, thank you for joining us on KiwaniTalk. It was good to see you again. And good luck on the election in November. And great job so far getting it all done and making sure it's all done. I'm Gary Gardner. Get out there, vote, always early. I won't say often, just once per election.
Right.
See you later. Bye-bye.